Hi again, folks. Here we go with another couple of stories about being on the road and days with the Mercury's rock and roll band. Our drummer Brian was probably the most how should we put it, colourful character of the band. I think he didn't have any fear or anything, and there was still is an absolute genius when it comes to fixing things. There's probably a good handful of gigs we wouldn't have got to had it not been for him. And probably maybe the reason we didn't go back to some venues. One story that comes to mind was you get bored in between sets in the dressing room and stuff, and it's if it's a working men's club gig, you're sometimes just like sat holed up in the dressing room because you can't sit out the front and talk because bingo was being played, and that is the main act in a working men's club, the bingo. And one night I remember we were in a club and it had an old bingo machine. I don't think it was in use anymore. And Brian decided to plug it in, and there's like a long tube. So when it was switched on, you press the button, the balls come up the tube, and it stopped. There's like a hook over the top, and the ball went up into the hook, and they could pull the ball out, then the next one would come up, and so on. Well, anyway, Brian decided to bend the hook so it was straight, press the button, and within seconds the dressing room was filled with flying bingo balls that just came out one after the other. We did our best to pick them all up, but I don't think a lot of them got put back in the machine, so I don't know whatever happened with that. But that was one of the particular ones. Another night, we'd had quite a busy weekend, as well as all having full-time jobs as well, and we were a bit tired and a bit fed up, and we played this working men's club in South Kirby, which is like a suburb of Barnsley, I believe. South Kirby, Barnsley, Rotherham. A bit of a rough club. We'd never done it before, and the audience were just couldn't care less about us. They were just there for the bingo. We were fed up, and Brian, in his wisdom at the end of the night, I don't know why, decided to take the fire extinguisher off the wall and thought we need one of these in the van. Another story about the van being on fire I'll tell after this one. But so he took the fire extinguisher and proceeded to put it in the back of the van. We didn't know he'd swiped it. And one of the guys, the concert secretary or whoever he was, came running after us and played hell and started shouting and swearing at us, and it was really getting quite violent. So he says to us, well, I'm going to ring the police because you've stolen that. So Brian gets the fire extinguisher, takes the pin out of it, and proceeds to bang the top of it, pointing the hose at this chairman, concert secretary, to spray him with water or foam, whatever's in it. And a heated argument broke out as Brian said, "You ring the police, I'm calling the fire brigade because this doesn't work." It was defunct, ancient, out of date, didn't work. So needless to say, we never went back to that club. But earlier on, at some point, we were doing a club, I think in Leeds, and we were on stage, and somebody came in running up to the stage saying, "Your van's on fire." Oh, right. So I can't remember if we were near the end of the set or what, or whether we stopped. We went out, and somebody had decided to light a fire at the side of the van by the back tyre. We did manage to put the fire out. I think the fire brigade came, actually. Somebody had called them. So needless to say, we had a completely burnt out tyre, and recovery had to get us home on that one. But one of the genius things that Brian would do, he would fix the van when it broke. There's many gigs we wouldn't have got to. One I recall vividly, we'd done the pickups. Brian was the last one to pick up, and we'd gone into I think we were going into a filling station to get some fuel, and we couldn't get the gears. The gears would not select on the van. It was just like, wouldn't go in. And Brian said, "That sounds like the selector pin has gone." Out Brian jumps, quick as a flash, starts scratching around on the floor, and found a bolt or a screw, just one that had been discarded. And he said, "This'll do." Got a hammer out that we used to carry a few tools. Got a hammer out, proceeded to bash this bolt that he'd found into where it goes. I don't know much about gearboxes. and that gear selector worked. The gear stick worked fine, and we never changed it, and it stayed in that van for probably another 2 years until we got rid of the van. Amplifiers, we'd have problems on stage sometimes. One of the amps would go down and he would be there pulling wires out and doing this, that and the other, and that would be fixed. So many things that Brian did, it was so funny. One of the vans that we had was an old, it was a Volkswagen LT28, and it had belonged to somebody who did motorbike scrambling. And there was a bike rack on the back of it, which was handy for standing on to get the gear out, but it stuck out. We painted it bright yellow so that everybody could see it, so you didn't walk into it or anything. We were in a club one night playing. I think we'd done the sound check and we were waiting to go on. And a guy comes into the club and says, "Is that your blue van outside?" "Yeah, why, what's the problem?" "You better come." So out we went, and there was a car with the front wheel arch on top of the bike rack, and thought, oh, so we literally, all four of us had to get on the bike rack and stand on it to loosen it to help lift the car off. That's gone tearing into it, this guy. Turns out it was a young lad, and it was his brother's car or his dad's car, and he'd taken it without permission and more or less not written it off, but a lot of serious damage done to the wheel arch there. No fault of ours, it was parked up and it was painted bright yellow, you couldn't miss it, but he came flying through the car park. God knows how fast he was going. It made it look like somebody had gone at it with a giant can opener. It had ripped right up the front wing. So that's just one story. There's some more coming very soon. I've got a lot of them.